There were a lot of people working behind the scenes on those iconic speeches, Brian Boyer being one of them. As Washington's chief speechwriter, Boyer spent a lot of time with the mayor, time he says he thinks about often. Here's Jim's full interview.
I am not a combative person by nature, but I have the courage of my convictions, and I cannot shrink from necessary contests, and I cannot shirk the responsibilities which I was elected to perform.
What a time to be alive and what a time to have worked in that administration. You were Harold Washington's chief speechwriter for quite a while.
Yes, I was. Through the campaign and the first 2 years of the administration,
Yeah,
I was the chief speechwriter for Harold.
my goodness. To have lived through that, the stories you could tell. Harold Washington was a larger than life figure. He was eloquent off the top of his head. He was very funny. Everybody knows he was a great reader. He loved books and literature. How did you incorporate his voice into what you typed? Tell me about that process.
But you know, there's an interesting process when you're working for somebody like Mayor Washington. The process begins with getting up every day at 6 o'clock and meeting him often for breakfast as early as 7 o'clock, being with him on and off throughout the day, often getting back to City Hall or the typewriter at home at 5, 6, or 7 at night and working until as late as 10 and 11. It's all consuming. It's 7 days a week. But you know, it's not like it's painful and it's not like it's hard. It's like it's fun. Because one of the things to remember always about Mayor Washington is that he had a terrific sense of humor. He was widely read. He loved to talk. And every place he went, people either loved him or hated him. And there was a lot of hate, but that was like being in combat. And it was exciting. And Chief of Security was Howard Saffold, a wonderful man. And everybody was together like a team. So you can think of it as being part of a stage play or being part of a sports team, but it was together with a lot of interesting people.
So you're with him all those hours, event after event after event. And so tell me how you were able to incorporate his voice into what you wrote for him for formal speeches, Brian, that was authentic for him to read.
One of the things you do if you've ever been a reporter, and I'd been a Sun-Times reporter, and I'd been night city editor of the Detroit Free Press. So I was accustomed to taking notes. Now my notes would be mostly scribble to other people, but I would look for choice phrases. And the mayor, of course, was a lawyer and he had a structured mind. So when he knew a speech was coming up, I already had observations by the mayor. I already had interesting things that he had said, and he knew an audience that he was going to speak to, and he knew what he wanted to say. So if it was policy, you knew what the policy was. And then there was backup that you had all the time. The press secretary, after Mayor Washington was in office, was Grayson Mitchell, was a brilliant man, absolutely brilliant. The assistant press secretary was Chris Chandler, who had been press secretary during the campaign. And both of them were writers. Both of them had been reporters. Both of them were very bright and well educated, so that anything you did, you then ran through Chandler and Mitchell, who would be sure that everything checked out as far as policy went, as far as being able to say what you could say at the time rather than revealing confidential information. Then I'd do a draft of the speech and I'd send it to the mayor. And then the mayor would very often accept it as it came. Sometimes he would put notes in the margin and then you'd make a revision and then he'd have the speech double spaced. But you knew for sure that when he was on location, he would read verbatim some of what was written, but he would also insert whatever he thought was appropriate for the time and for the place. The response back from the audience. because he'd also be guided by that give and take, you know.
Brian, is there anything that you'd want the audience to know about how Mayor Washington's mind worked?
Well, Mayor Washington actually was basically a formal intelligence. He was an honors graduate from the law school at Northwestern University. Don Clark Netsch, I think, had been a classmate of his. Harold was a brilliant person his entire life, and he had a very proper and formal and advanced education. So he was a long way from being unschooled in any way. You know, and then don't forget, he had been a congressman before he was elected mayor.
Yeah.
And it was a job that he loved. And I think some of his quotes have often been repeated, because I can remember asking him during the campaign why he was running for mayor. And he said, Brian, he said, I'll tell you the truth, I don't know. When you're a congressman, you ride first class and they call you sir. How can you have a better job than that?
I love it. I love it.
Tomorrow is the 99th anniversary of the mayor's birth.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I can't believe it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like yesterday he was taking office at 60 years old, you know, and just it's incredible.
I know. It's really a pivotal time for the city of Chicago. Chicago, of course, was changed for the better after the mayor.
He changed the city forever, no question about that.
He changed it forever. Yeah, he was a wonderful man. He was wonderful fun. I think about him every day.